Okay guys, so in this tutorial I'm going to go through just a little bit about how to UV a model and how to create a texture on it. I'm probably going to stop the video in a couple of different segments just so I can grab some different files. But just as a good starting point, if you've been following along in the other tutorials, you should probably have something that looks a bit like this. So a load of different modular assets that we've created just using the same kind of building blocks in 3D Studio Max. And then hopefully in the last tutorial you've gone through and you've made this, or your version of it basically, just a checker box. There's loads of these available online. I've actually based mine on one that I saw a year or so ago on Digital Tutors. It's just a really kind of cool one. But you can, if you mean a quick Google, will throw you up loads. You can see like loads of different examples. So see some of them are numbered. It just depends what way you want to do it. But for now, I mean, we can use the one that we made. Hopefully you learned a couple of things in the last tutorial as well. So we're going to start off just back in 3D Studio Max. We're actually just going to work on this first wall segment to begin with, and then once you can UV this, you could probably UV the rest, no problem. Okay, so UVing, the best way for me to try and explain it is it's kind of like when you're I don't know if anyone else did this when you're a kid and you're working with like a cereal box and for some reason you take it apart. I grew up in Ireland, so obviously all I had to play with was cereal boxes. But what a cereal box is, it's just basically let's grab a quick example here off Google. It's a 2D plane, but then when we wrap it back together, it builds it into a 3D shape. And for me, that's always been the best way for me to get my head around texturing. What we're doing is we're going to paint a 2D texture, and then it's going to wrap around this 3D surface. It's going to be stitched together. So that's always worked for me. Maybe I just went through that and everyone like watching this going, cereal boxes, what's he talking about? But that's how it's always made sense to me. So what we got to do is we've got a 3D model here. We've got to kind of unwrap it, pull it apart, and make it into like a 2D plane that we can then take into Photoshop or whatever other software you're using, and we can paint textures on it basically. Okay, so the way we do that is we use a modifier called UV Unwrap. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just click on my model. I'm going to come over here into my modifier list, and this massive list of stuff. If you just hit U on the keyboard, it'll take you down to Unwrap UVW, and that's what we want to work with. Okay, so we'll click there. All right, now straight away you probably notice your scenes kind of change quite a bit. Okay, so down here now, this has gone on top of our editable poly as a modifier, and it's also given us a load of different kind of options that we can start playing around with. Okay, so the first thing to do is we're going to open up the UV texture editor. We're going to have a look at it. So here's the UV editor. Just click on that. You bring up this menu. This is where we're going to do kind of most of the stuff for this tutorial. Okay, it does get a bit cramped, so if you've got two monitors, it's really, I have two monitors here, but obviously I'm only recording one, but it's worth your while using your second monitor. But this is where we're going to do most of our stuff. So basically what this is where we need to flatten out all our stuff and cram it all into this space. Okay, the first thing I like to do, and I notice a lot of people do similar, is I like to grab everything and move it off this space first of all, and just tackle it kind of one little chunk at a time. So what we're going to do is just down here at the bottom, you notice some of these options are quite similar. I'm just going to go into face mode. I'm going to grab everything there, and I'm just going to move it just out of the way. So now I've basically just got a blank slate. Okay, so we'll kind of go working in two menus here. We're going to be working over here and here as well at the same time. If you ever get rid of it by mistake, just open UV editor, it'll take you back into it. So first thing I want to do is I want to project on this. Okay, and a projection is just think of it like an actual overhead projector. All you're doing is you're projecting your texture onto this face, and the way that you do it just depends on which one you choose. So here's your projection types here. Let's just take a slug of coffee. So for this here, it's quite flat. We want to project on it just planar, as a flat plane. So if I hit Planar Map here, you notice it's kind of made a bit of a balls up, right? So it's projected it, but it's, you see this little yellow line here, that's the plane it's projected it from. So even though this here is kind of facing upright, it's actually projected it from a different direction. And this here is where you can change the options. So these are your align options. So you can align it to X. You notice now it's projecting from the other side. It's projecting in the X direction. But what I want to do is I want to project it towards it, and you notice it's the Y axis. If I turn around, you can see it's the Y axis. So if I hit that Y, that looks a lot better. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going for there. From there, we're just going to, that's now done. We can kind of move this out of the way. Sorry, excuse me. You'll find it's quite annoying. The projection map stays on, so you have to click it again to turn it off. Okay, so that's up projected. That's looking okay. We're just going to click on that once, and now we can actually edit this. Okay, so to grab that face, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold Shift and just move it down off that space that I'm working on. From there, I kind of want to get this next little bit now. It's up to you what kind of order you do it in. I want to get maybe this next little bit here, and I'm going to, if you look at it, it's actually been mapped already. It's quite thin. It's actually tiny. So we'll probably just maybe remap this again. It's actually done an okay job where it's projected it right on there. So I'm kind of in two minds about whether or not I want to reproject it. I'll tell you what we'll do. We're probably going to reproject it. Okay, so the same again. We're going to use a planar map for it. As soon as I project it, you notice it goes right back onto this area down here. I kind of want to do it the same. I'll do it Y. So you notice that it's actually made it fill up this whole space, which is not what I want. I want to actually scale this down later on. So that looks fine for me. We're going to hit planar mapping again to stop projection. We're going to grab it now, and we can actually just scale it. Okay, so all I'm doing is holding Shift. I'm just scaling it down. So what I like to do is try and base it on how it looks on your model. So that wall is quite big. If you look at the proportions of that wall to that little area there, it's quite small. So all I did there was I went on the scale tool. You can use the freeform as well. I'm a bit clumsy, so I kind of don't use the freeform as often as I should. From there, I'm just going to go to Move Selected Object. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm just going to move it down to the bottom here. Okay. I just like to do it in order, so I can keep it like fairly neat. Okay. So it doesn't matter if there's a gap there. We're going to fix that later on. So next thing we're going to do is this part here, and you notice that's probably actually that's done an alright job. So we could probably just use that as it is. We're going to move that down. Actually, I'm going to project it again so it's detached from the rest. So we can same again, planar map. You notice it's, let's make sure it does it right. Do it in Y, so that's fine. And then we're going to do a quick scale on it then. So again, I'm just scaling it till I think it's right. I mean, we can adjust a lot of this in a second because we're gonna use that map that we made in the last tutorial, and we're gonna adjust kind of the sizes and stuff. So that's probably, we probably want to scale that a little bit more, and then we probably want to scale that one a little bit more. So that's quite small in comparison. Okay, so that's looking not too bad. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to move to the top of the model. Okay, so we're going to do the top next. So it looks here like it's tried to do it in the Y, but it's made a bit of a dog's dinner of it. So we'll try a different option for this one. So I'm still going to do planar because it's a flat surface. I'm going to try for this one. I'm going to try best align. There you go. That seems to have come out with not a bad result. Okay. From there, same as before, we're just going to scale it down. Hit my planar again so I can edit it. Scale it down. That looks not too bad. From there we're just going to go to the move tool. We're just going to shift it down. Okay. This is a bit of a weird one because I never actually intended anyone to see the back of these walls. Okay, so these two sections here, I'm not really that bothered about how they look. So I could just overlap them, but you get like a lot of issues when you overlap UVs and stuff, especially if you want to use them for like shadow maps and stuff in Unreal Engine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to project them. I'm going to make them like really small in the texture map. I'm just going to set them off to one side. It's not the best practice, but just for this tutorial, just to get you started on UV unwrapping and stuff, it'll do for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to project these as normal, but when it comes down to the very end of the tutorial, I'm probably just going to throw them to one side. Okay, so that looks fine. That looks alright. Okay, so yeah, that'll do them. We'll just chuck them out there. Doesn't really matter what happens to them. And then that's the bottom. We've got. Sorry, I just realised I'm working kind of quite small here at the minute. We've still got the bottom to do, which is there, and then we still get the two sides to do. I'm more concerned probably with the two sides and them turning out okay. So just for the sake of this tutorial, we'll probably just keep these sides, and then later on I'll show you what you do if you want to get rid of them. Okay, so we grab those three polygons there, just not forgetting that there's a very small one there. We'll just map these the same way we've been doing so far. Okay, for this one we want to map them in the X direction, just because that's the way it's kind of facing. And you notice there, it does an okay job, but it's totally out of proportion. So that's where we just come in and just scale them. Okay, until we think it's okay. Again, we're just going to shift this out, move it out onto its own little space. We'll do the same with the other side. So just depending on what we're using this model for, we might keep these parts, like I was saying, or you might just bin them. It just depends. You might need to have the edge of a wall, or this might always be linked together. If it was always linked together, we wouldn't need these because they would just be wasted polygons. The player would never see them, no one would ever see them. It's just using up space. So that's kind of remembered my last sentence, which is quite handy. So we're just going to scale this one as well. Okay. And then we're just going to move this over. Again, I'm just holding down shift. Just to kind of lock it. When I'm dragging stuff left and right, I'm just holding down shift just so I don't kind of drag it all over the place. So I'll set those two out to one side. See now we're being left with less and less pieces, so it's a nice, I always think moving stuff off is a nice way to keep track of what you've done and what you haven't done. So again, this is just the bottom. It's depending on what you're working on. You might actually keep this, you might actually bin it. So again, project. This time you want to do it in Z because it's a flat surface. So we could have done the other one in Z as well, actually at the top. We're having a bit of issue with that. From there we're just going to finish with the planar, we're just going to scale it down. Again, it's quite, I'm just gauging my size just roughly off this one here because that's the top, so I'm just gauging it roughly off that. So that's kind of most of that blocked out, which is good. I'm going to make this full screen, or make it a lot bigger, just so you guys can follow the next bit. Because what we're going to do is we're going to start maybe stitching some little bits of this together. You don't always have to do this, and like I said, sometimes you might want to do it if you're doing if you're baking for normal maps or you're baking for like shadow maps and stuff like that. You mightn't always want to stitch stuff together, but for this, it's just a nice way for me to show you the tool. So we've got this section here, okay, which is and I've got this ticked on, by the way. Select by element. So we've got that selected. So that's the front of our wall. So that's kind of going to take up most of our texture space. So you notice at the bottom here I've left a little gap. So I'm going to change my select mode. And notice now, if I toggle this off, I can actually select this edge on its own. So basically what I want to do is I want to grab this little edge at the bottom. I want to show you where this is in the model. Okay, so it's right down there. That's the edge I'm working on. You'll notice it's showing up in blue, this other edge here. Okay, so just to show you in terms of face, that's that face, that's that one there. That edge is what they have in common. So what I want to do is actually stitch them together. Okay, so select that edge. I'm going to come up here into stitch and do a custom stitch. And what it's done now is it's shifted those two edges together and actually stitched them together. So now that's kind of one flow. And I will do the same with the next one. Okay, so select that edge and I want to do a custom stitch. Stitch that together, and then I'm going to do it with the top as well. Custom stitch. So now we've got is one massive face. One massive kind of flow of faces where all these parts are together. Okay, you could go to the stage where you might custom stitch the other bits on as well, but that's when it starts almost getting like a little bit messy. Okay, it's totally up to you. I mean, you might decide that that's what you want to do. I'm not too fussed about these side bits, so I'm just going to leave them where they are. Okay, so that is kind of the whole front of our wall. That's basically the most important bit to me, is this bit here. Okay, so what we can start doing now is we can start selecting these and we can start scaling them, because I don't actually want all of them to be this size. Remember I said that's the back of the wall. I don't really care about that. That's the bottom. I'm not really too fussed about that either. And then these two bits aside, so I'm not too fussed about them. I want to give the focus of this to this wall here. I'm just going to maybe just arrange these myself. So I'm going to move mode, and I'm just going to start placing this where I want it. Okay. So obviously scale it down a little bit. Okay, so these are the sides. Again, this is where freeform mode might come in handy, because you can actually quickly switch between moving and scaling and stuff like that. So if I place that down there. Okay, so, and then all I need to do now is grab this back wall, move that into place, and I'm going to scale it. And the user's hopefully never going to see that anyway, so. Okay, right, so that's kind of blocked out and laid out there. What we want to do now is see how this actually looks when we apply a texture to it. Okay, so I'm going to do is close out of this for now. I want to bring up the material editor. Okay, you can actually come up here and hit it, or you can push M on the keyboard. That's the shortcut for it. This can kind of be a bit daunting. There's quite a lot of stuff in here. You might want to run it in compact mode if you want. In compact mode seems like a little bit easier to understand what's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to work on this one here, and we're going to get a diffuse for it. Okay, so see the minute the diffuse is set to this, we're actually going to come in here, hit this little option here beside it, and we want to use a bitmap for it. Okay. From there, it just brings up just a file selector, which is where we can just browse for the file that we're using. So I saved mine in Scene Assets and then Images, and there's a UV mapping that I made in the last lesson. We just hit open for that. Then from there you'll get some options. Because we plugged the texture in, we can get options to turn up and down the number of tiles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to maybe 4 by 4. Okay. You see it just updates here as well. So I'm just going to click and drag that now onto my model. It looks like it's not worked. And you just need to tick this option here, which is show shaded material in viewport. Okay. Now the reason we put that on is we want to see if this texture is going to end up being stretched, and that's why we made this checkered box material in the last lesson. So if I come in here now and look at it, you can see that front is actually looking not too bad. Okay, what we want those to look like squares, we want that to look like a circle. We want to make sure the writing's the right way around. So that's why we put all those things in place in the last lesson. Like, I'm not actually too worried about the side, but it turns out the sides have turned out okay, and you notice the back is actually backwards. So that's where we would have to go in and flip it. Okay. So if we were actually going to be concerned with the back of this model, that's something we would need to fix, and that's why the writing's on there. What I'm more concerned about is just this little section down here. Okay, and just making sure it's not stretched, and just by pure luck it seems to not be stretched. I'm still going to show you how to fix it if it was stretched. Okay, so now we've got that applied, we can go to open UV editor and we can come in and start tweaking these. So something I mentioned there was that the back was basically backwards, which happens quite often. Okay, so if we look at it here, this whole face here is just wrong. Okay, so what we can do is select it here, hold down a right click and go flip horizontal, and notice now the writing's the correct way around. Dead easy. Like, sometimes you might find you've painted your texture, you've applied it, and it just needs a flip. You can just do it quickly here rather than having to go back into Photoshop and start messing around with your texture and stuff. So that looks alright. If we did want to change any of these, now we've got the texture applied, we can actually go in here and we can go into edge mode, and you'll get like a real-time update on these. So if I was to just go to the move tool and just start moving that around, you can notice it starts updating. Okay, so that's quite handy as well if you ever if you've ever got a model like nearly right and you're just maybe a vertex out, you can do some vertex mode as well. You might want to come in here and just tweak some stuff. So that looks fine to me. That's actually looking okay. So what we want to do now is I want to export this out as its own file that basically we can mess around with. We can take into Photoshop and work on. Okay, so we want to go Tools and then Render UVW Template. Okay, from there it'll pop up. You'll get some options. The main ones for you to concern yourself with are the width and the height. Oh, so 1024 by 1024 will be fine for this. You could probably get away with 512 by 512, but that's okay. From there you want to hit Render UVW, and this is what you'll get. Okay, so this file has just been generated based on those UVWs. From there you want to hit Save Image, and then you want to choose where you're going to save it. Okay, so we're going to call it wall underscore UV, and then it's up to you. Normally save as a JPEG or a PNG. I'll save this one as a JPEG for now. That'll be fine. Quality doesn't really matter. Let's go with best. Okay. So what we'll do now is want to open that up in Photoshop. Okay. Because I set up my project folder a while back, it's actually just brought it on okay for me. And there you go. So this is now your kind of template to start working on. Okay. So from here, what I would recommend you do is, and I kind of say this to all my students, is don't use Google for your textures. Go get your textures yourself, or make sure you get them from a good royalty-free source. A really good one is CG Textures. Okay, you can sign up here for a free account, which is very good if you're a student. But also, if you're like a small studio, you can sign up as well for like a commercial account. You can pay for it. Really good. It just depends on what type of account. It means you'll get different types of limits on your on the amount you can download per day. So from here we're just going to do a real quick search for brick. This has got like absolutely thousands of textures, really good stuff as well. So what I'll do is I'll download the small one. There, that's fine. We're going to open it in Photoshop. Okay. And then I'm going to drop it in here. Okay, so I'm just imagining that this would be like a brick wall texture. If I just quickly scale it, I'm going to scale it down to about 25%. Okay, so maybe not 25, that's a bit crazy. Maybe about 50. There you go. So about 50% seems not too bad. From there, just going to push enter. Going to move it into place. Okay. I'm going to select these two layers, Control and J. I'm going to duplicate them. I'm going to shift them down. So this is a real hash job, by the way. I should say, like, spend a lot more time on your textures than I'm doing right now. But this is just to show you that it works. Now, what I want to show you is I'm going to overlap this, and I want to show you that it just doesn't matter. Okay, that's actually empty texture space. So nothing, this here gap here, nothing's going to go on there. All right, that's just actually empty space all around here. We're going to put some, maybe some like concrete there. So if I just reopen my CG textures, we'll go with I just want like maybe like kind of like a bare concrete. Something like this will be fine. Okay, you can see like straight away the small version of this is 1024. Which is absolutely massive. So it's really worth your while getting an account. I'm just going to open this in Photoshop again. This isn't even the best practice of dropping this stuff in, but I'm just doing a real quick hash job because I want to show you guys how it works. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make a duplicate of this layer. I'm going to move it on top. I set it to lighten, just so I can kind of see these lines, see where I'm working, basically. Okay. That's all I need to do for now. I'm just going to turn that off, and I'm just going to real quickly save this and show you how you would go about applying it again. So just like, don't take this as a texturing tutorial. It's a how you would UV unwrap tutorial. From there, I'm just going to save it as a PNG, and we're just going to call it text. Hit save, and now we're just going to jump back into 3D Studio Max for the next part. Okay, so we're done with that. Don't really need it anymore. Done with our render UVs. That's okay. So this next part we're just going to do in the material editor. So you can actually edit this if you wanted to, or we can do another material. Basically, we can work on the second one instead. Same as what we did before. Want to get a diffuse? Plug it in. We want to plug in a bitmap file. Want to grab our wall text. And then you want to hit show shaded material in viewport. Okay, exactly the same. Now you notice straight away it's lining up exactly the way we lined it up in our UV texture editor. So if I go back in, have a quick look at the UV editor. So while we're in here, just one last thing we'll take a quick look at is how we can get this texture here, up here and here. So at the minute, notice up top right hand corner, it's being set as checker pattern. Okay. If you hit reset list, reset texture list, you should be able to choose that wall texture. Okay. So like I was saying before, because I did such a real hash job in Photoshop and I just quickly threw that stuff together, notice that edge is like slightly out. From here you could actually change this if you wanted. Okay, so you could use the move tool and notice how it updates just in real time there. Okay, so all you're doing is you're changing the coordinates of the file. So that's just a quick way that you can make like some real small changes if something wasn't looking right. But you notice our texture doesn't look stretched because we took the time to kind of unwrap it properly, and everything looks alright. Once you're finished with it, like finished with your texture editing and stuff, you want to kind of collapse this back, because you notice at the minute it's still coming up as a modifier. Same as what we did right at the start of this modeling was you want to hold down your right click on your model, hold down your right click, convert to, and then editable poly, and then what'll happen is your UV editor will go back into your stack then. So it goes back, it's all, and you can always bring it back up again, but that's a real quick, like me blitzing through just how to do a quick bit of UV unwrapping. So as the tutorials go on anyway, we'll do more and more advanced types of UV unwrapping, but that's just a real quick kind of crash course on it. So hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or anything, obviously just leave me a comment, send me a tweet. It's just at Matthew McGrory. I'll probably stick it on the end of this video. And then the links and stuff to CG textures, I'll just stick at the bottom of the in the description and stuff.